Welcome to the Cook's Domain. Today, we're going to make hamburgers. Now I know, hamburgers, it's easy. You buy some mincemeat, flatten it, grill it. But how many of us have done that and were really disappointed with the results? Probably all of us. Now there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, mincemeat that we get from a supermarket isn't very good. It's the cheapest, I mean, it's the offcut of the offcut that's been minced. So it's usually meat that's very tough. And even by mincing it, it's not helping it very much. So what we need to do is just buy better quality meat. Now we can do that in the supermarket. You can buy a better cut, it won't be minced, and you have to mince it yourself. Or you go to your butcher, you tell him what you want, and ask them to mince it for you, and they will. You could buy fillet steak if you wanted. I mean, I wouldn't buy that to make a burger. It's just far too tender because we want to bite on our burger, but they'll do it for you. The butcher doesn't care. He'll happily do that for you. But the cut I'm going to recommend is rump steak. Rump is the cheapest steak, and I mean of the real steaks, the premium steaks that you can buy and grill and eat it like a steak. I can't do that with flank, and if you can, you've got better teeth than me. I don't think flank or skirt, even though we call them steaks, are steaks. The bottom of the steak hierarchy is rump. It's got a bite to it, but it's still a steak, so it's got that steak flavor. So I use rump, and what I do is I go to my butcher, I tell them how much I want, and I get them to mince it for me. Now what's important is that it is coarsely minced, because again, the mince we buy in supermarkets is far too fine. We need it coarsely minced. We need big pieces. This, for example, is coarsely minced beef. The other thing that's very important with burgers is they need the fat. There's just no way around it. If you want to make a delicious burger, you need fat. The fat will melt as you cook it, but it's what's going to lubricate that burger. It's what makes it juicy and delicious. So you need meat that's 80-20 between meat and fat. Now again, the way I do it with my butcher is I tell him how much steak I want, and I judge 113 grams, which is a quarter pound for each burger. Then I calculate how many burgers I want, and I tell the butcher I want a kilo of rump, for example. But what I get him to do is to try and cut off as much of the fat off of the rump. And the reason for that is so that he can weigh it for me. He'll weigh it and he'll tell me how much the meat is, and then he can weigh the fat and how much the fat is, and then we can calculate. Now the good thing about butchers is they have a lot of beef fat that they just cut off while they're making other people's orders. And they charge you zero for it. So when I tell him that ratio within the rump isn't enough fat, he grabs a lump of this white stuff that he's more than likely going to throw away at the end of the day, and just throws it in. And then he'll put it into the mincer with the rest, and gives me my 80-20 that I'm looking for. So that is the most important thing. Now, if you don't want to just buy rump because it's not cheap, you're talking about 30 odd pounds a kilo. So you're talking about 8 or 9 burgers costing you 30 pounds. The only other meat I would mix with the rump is either chuck or short rib. Get the butcher to take it off the rib, obviously off the bone. And that will bring the whole cost down. At most, go 50-50, and that'll be pretty good as well. Most American recipes for burgers in general recommend a mixture of short rib and chuck, so that'll work. But I'm looking for a better quality product here. I want something that's going to taste steaky, so I go for the rump. But even if you went rump and a bit of short rib and a bit of chuck, for example, you're still going to have that steak flavor there. So that'll be your choice. Nonetheless, once you've got your meat and it's ground and it's ready to go, I'll show you what we need to do next. The mindset these days is that there's nothing in a burger but beef. I mean, McDonald's advertises that, it's 100% beef and just a little salt and pepper over the top. And that's started to become quite the most predominant thinking, even in America. But that's not how burgers were being made originally. I've done it 100% beef. It doesn't stay together very well. It breaks apart way too easily. I can only imagine you need a lot more fat to make that work. 30-35% to meat ratio, because the fat's quite sticky. that might help keep it together. But also, I also found that it's not as satisfying when I've done that. So I've played around with a lot of recipes until I figured out what I thought makes the best burger. And a couple of ingredients that I think are misunderstood. So as well as our beef, I'll put that to one side, my ratio is 5% breadcrumb, which is what I have here. Now you can buy this kind of breadcrumb or you can make it your own. It's up to you, it doesn't really matter, or you can use panko, it doesn't matter. Any kind of breadcrumb, and I'm using 5%, so it's like if you were using a kilo, that would be 50 grams of breadcrumb. Now, breadcrumb is one of these things that's a bit misunderstood. You know, you go and buy cheap takeaway food that's got meat in it apparently, and people say, oh, it's filled with breadcrumb. It's considered a filler, if you will. Well, in many cases that's true. Breadcrumb is a balance. If you put too much in, it makes the food really dense, dry, and like I said, it bulks it out. So you can turn a kilo into 2 kilos or a kilo into a kilo and a half. And that's when it's used badly. When you use a very small amount, it actually has the opposite effect in whatever you use it in. It softens, it makes things more juicy, because it carries, you know, it can absorb liquid. It makes things more juicy, lighter, if you will. And that's why I add it. I add it for the reasons for making the burger juicier, making the burger lighter, and far more delicious. So I would definitely include it into your recipe. Just give it a go. Try 100% just beef. Try it with a little bit of breadcrumb. So I'm going to tip that straight in here. The next added ingredient that I add, because I've added it, just helps, it enhances my burger, it just makes it taste even more delicious. You don't have to add it, it's up to you, is onion powder. My ratio is 1%. So whatever the weight is of your beef, and you've added your 5% of that weight in breadcrumb, 1% would be onion powder, and you sprinkle that in too. Now, I have one more ingredient, and that's an egg, but I'm not going to put it in yet. See, if you put the egg in now, the breadcrumb will absorb the egg and you'll get a mushy mess. So we're going to leave the egg for the moment. Now, why do I use egg? Egg is a binder. It's going to bring this together and keep it together. It won't taste eggy. And you can use one egg all the way up to a kilo's worth of meat. That means if you're only doing half a kilo, you should use half an egg, but to get half an egg isn't that easy. You'd have to beat it, weigh it, and remove half that weight. I think it's unnecessary. I'm just going to add the whole egg, but you could use one egg up to a kilo. Once you go over a kilo, then think about a second egg. So what I'm going to do for now, with clean hands, is I'm going to mix what I have in the bowl together. You may also realize I have not added any salt or pepper, and that's because we don't, not at this stage anyway. Now, as I mix this, my fingers are very loose. I'm not squishing this together, because that will again create a very dense and not very nice burger. All I'm doing is just distributing the onion powder and the breadcrumb with the meat. So I'm just tossing it and mixing it lightly. We do not want to squish it all together. There we go. So we've got the breadcrumb and the onion powder all over. It's in and around everything. Now we can add the egg. Crack your egg. Made a bit of a mess of that. Spread it around and mix that in also. Make sure that you get all of the egg into your mixture. Just keeping it all very light. See what I'm doing? I'm using my fingers to spread the meat out, drop it back in loosely, because I want the egg to be incorporated everywhere. I want all of the beef to have some egg. And you'll know when the egg has been totally absorbed because it will start to feel, the meat in here will start to feel drier again because it was very wet when we put the egg. And as we mix, that wetness will disappear and be replaced by a stickiness, so sticky that you could almost lift the bowl just by grabbing the meat. As you can see, it's a bit noisy, so we're pretty much there. But the mixing hasn't been very tough because we don't want to make the meat too dense. Okay, once we've got our meat together, we want to separate into burgers. I'm going to separate this into quarter pounders, 113 grams each. Okay, so once we've got our mix ready, we're going to need scales and something to put on the scales so that we can measure our beef. Now I want 113 grams, which is quarter pounders. You decide on the division for your burgers. So what I'm going to do is just tear a little bit off and get to the 113 mark. So now we have our measured 113 grams. Very lightly with your fingers, do not press down hard. Start getting this into a patty shape. Have some idea of your bun size and start spreading out to that. Now once you've got a rough shape, put it down and just build the burger. Now what I do is I just very lightly squish the ends so that I can get a nice edge to my burger. I just keep going around like this. Once I've got the edges roughly where I want them, I then start to press down from the middle and squish out. Okay, once we've got the shape on our burger, all we want to do is add a little salt, a little black pepper, just pat it down, and then I want you to, with your hands carefully, remove it from there and place it back down onto the paper. Now, so basically the salted and the peppered side is now underneath. Before we salt and pepper this side, we need to think about the science of how minced beef cooks. And what happens is, if you've ever cooked on a grill or if you've ever cooked meat like this on a pan, you'll find that you've got this nice flat burger which then seems to contract inwards and balls up. It becomes almost like a rugby ball of some sort, you know, like an ovally kind of shape. To combat that, to get a flat burger, what we're going to do, using our fingers and our thumb, we're going to just lift the edges and push down with our thumbs. So we're creating a lip, if you will. And just go all the way around the burger like this. And just keep pushing out and up. And as you can see, we now have that lip. So right now we've got a burger that was flat and is now flat with these strange little edges, almost like the crater of a volcano. The last thing you want to do is start to push down into the middle of your burger, pushing outwards. Now what we're doing now is making the very middle thinner, just like that. And now we have actually created a crater shape. It is now like this, it's not flat anymore. And the reason for that is, as it cooks, the heat will bring down those edges, and because it wants to contract inwards and the inside is thinner than the outside, all that will do is inflate the inner, so when it's cooked, it's going to be a perfectly flat burger. So once you've got your shape, we can go ahead now and salt this side and pepper this side as well. Do the same for all your burgers. I know it seems like it's long-winded, but it doesn't take you long. And the more times you do it, the quicker you will do it. I will knock out 4, 5, 6 burgers in minutes, literally. And you will too. Once you've done them and you've got them all onto the parchment paper, you want to put it in the fridge for at least 20 minutes to half an hour before you cook. or longer. The longer you leave it, the better. If you wanted to do this the night before and cook it with the next day, even better. You'll find that the color will change. It will go a much darker red because your fridge also draws moisture out of this, but that's all a good thing. So overnight is even better, and it will taste even better. So now I'm going to finish off with the rest and get them in the fridge. With our burgers in the fridge now, whether you're going to use them in 20-30 minutes or the next day, you want to get all the items that you're going to dress your burger with ready. So slice up your lettuce, your tomatoes, your onions, your gherkins, or pickle as they say in the United States. Get those things at the appropriate amount of time before you're going to cook your burgers ready. But I want to give you one tip with regard to those things, and that's the onion. It's something that all the burger restaurants do and makes a difference. When I learned this trick, I was absolutely flabbergasted as to how much of a difference it makes. And it's with regard to the onion. When you slice up your onion or dice it up, however it is that you want to prepare your onion for your burgers, get a bowl of cold water and put them into that water. It does something to the onion, which I don't understand, I'm not a chemist, but it makes it firstly crisper for some reason. So instead of having an onion that's a little stringy or a little difficult to bite down on, it makes it crisper. It has a much better bite, especially if you're going to be using whole onion rings. The other thing it does is a lot of onions, especially brown onions, they have this really sharp flavor, which is a little unpleasant, I think, in a burger. Putting it in water seems to remove that. You've still got that nice onion, sweet onion flavor, but it takes away that sharpness. So next time, slice up your onions, whether you're going to slice them into rings or whether you're going to dice them into little pieces, whichever way you do it, put them in a bowl of cold water for at least half an hour before you want to use them. Now I'm going to be adding some bacon strips to my burger, and in the UK we usually cook our bacon in a frying pan. I would suggest that if you're going to be making strips of bacon for a burger, cook it in the oven. You'll get a completely different texture, and it'll be more akin to the kind of texture that bacon has when it's in a burger. Because I know the mindset here is bacon frying pan. Believe me, put some foil in the pan, put your strips down, put them in the oven, and they'll be amazing. As soon as it starts getting quite hot, the first thing we're going to do is toast our buns. So let's get those in now. Now remember, we're going to be cooking the burgers quite quickly, so we want very hot, nice crust on the outside, juicy in the middle. Okay, with our buns ready, okay, now we're ready for our burger, and now I'm going to be filming this and showing it to you in real time. While that's cooking, I'm just quickly going to prepare my buns. I want a little bit of ketchup. Not a lot. You don't ever want to do it with sauce. So a little bit of mustard as well. I'm going to prepare my base. A few onions. And remember the trick with the onions and the water. Absolutely delicious. Now you can of course add lettuce if you so wish, and tomatoes. I don't want those in my burger. I just like a classic burger. Onion, gherkin, pickle, as they say in the States. How many pickles should we put? Let's go with 5 every bite. Let's not do the McDonald's thing with 2. Who was that bean counter who said only 2 gherkins costing McDonald's millions of dollars, I'm sure? It's a fella called Alan. I know it. Alright, let's now flip the burger. And we want to get a piece of cheese on there now and get that melting. And you see how long that was in there for? It wasn't in there for very long at all. Okay, that's it for the burger. The base is now cooked. Let's turn the heat off. Let's get this out of the way. Alright, here we go. Let's put our burger on. And that fits delightfully. Nice piece of bacon on top of that. And there we have it. Beautiful burger with skin on fries. Okay, let's see what this burger is saying. I can already tell that it is juicy. Let's take a bite. Look at the juices dripping. Juicy. Let me just say, it reminds me of when I'm in the States. It reminds me of a big burger chain that we now have here in the UK. Without mentioning any names, proper burger. God, it's dripping everywhere. Let's try some of these skin on fries. Oh. You don't need to go out and spend, I think the equivalent for this is at least £15 in a semi-decent restaurant. It only goes up. I made it at home for less than what, £3.50, and if it's not as good, it's better. Thanks for watching.